I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. Whatever. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I am Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Friday night stream. Hope you guys have had a good week, a good day, ready to talk about some of this stuff, because it's Father's Day weekend. Father's Day week. Father's Day is just day after tomorrow, so we've got some good things to talk about, and it's obviously timely, but it's going to be fun to dig into some of these stories. So welcome to everybody. I have quite a few folks in the chat. I did miss some of the comments because chat's been going on for a bit, which is always great to see. I did see a couple of people. I think Brian Kilmartin, mentioning Splinter. I did ask the question, who were some of your favorite father figures growing up, or in general from fiction? And you guys were mentioning a lot of things and a lot of names I didn't recognize at all. But Brian Gilmartin talks about Splinter from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's a great one. Man-at-Arms, obviously. Yeah, I've got that in the thumbnail. Welcome, Timothy Shanahan. Welcome, Nathaniel Zalozball. Let's see. Uncle Iroh from Avatar, The Last Emperor. Oh, I thought you were at first. I forgot to mention him, but I will mention him tonight. Oh man, it just popped in my head. I've been thinking about my favorite fictional heroes last few days, and it didn't pop in my head until you mentioned Avatar for some reason. I saw the A. I'm thinking Battle Angel Alita. Remind me, what's the name of the doctor that takes her in and is a wonderful father figure to her? We'll be talking about him, both in manga and in the film. Really great. Welcome, Horizon Talker. Welcome to Xana Maru, Daniel, Fenrir the Ice Wolf. Haven't seen you around in a while. Great to see you, Jonathan Kent. Definitely. Obi-Wan. Yeah, I thought about mentioning Obi-Wan, but there's not a lot of time that he has with Obi-Wan. So I didn't decide to talk about him so much. But we will talk about Star Wars in general with father figures, because that's important. Let's see. Elijah Brown, welcome. CK, good to see you. Chris Kent Sr. there. Optimus Prime. Yeah, a lot of people look up to Optimus, definitely. Yeah, I still haven't really gotten into it, to Classic Transformers. That's the one classic cartoon I just never got into, but I will. I'll check it out. Uncle Ben, sure. Yeah. Melissa Harris, welcome. Captain Red. Ed Starr, welcome. Fond of Guy Williams as John Robinson from Lost in Space. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a blast from the past. My dear Sound Engraver, welcome. Says King Mufasa. Yeah. He was a great father figure. Definitely. Definitely. Welcome. 1992. Holy crap. Welcome. I think I mentioned Brian Gilmartin. Big Al is here. It says today is your late father's birthday. Oh, wow. So close to Father's Day. And I guess some years it probably falls on Father's Day. So appreciate good father figures growing up, like the father on The Waltons, played by Ralph Waite. The Walton, man, that is a blast from the past. That is a blast. I actually lived near not near, within, easy Sunday drive distance of the original Walton's Mountain, like where John Hamner actually lived and wrote the stories about his life and stuff. So, yep, it's a little close to home. Let's see. Leia Plus Size, good evening to you as well. Always good to see you. Comic Skater, welcome. Let's see. Francisco. Lots of folks here. Way too many for me to just keep going down and mentioning. Netters Network. Good to see you, Netters Network. D.R. Yeisley. Great to see everybody here. And hopefully you've had a good day. I have been, I mowed the lawn today, so my allergies are a little, never had allergies growing up, but I started to develop them, I guess, and mowing the lawn always gets the throat all scratchy and stuff. So hopefully I won't be clearing my throat every few minutes. But I found out today, before we get into our content, that it is the 30th anniversary of Van Halen's For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. That makes me feel extremely old. So I've been rocking out to that album all day today, mowing the lawn and everything and just listening to it. That is just it's one of my top 5 favorite rock albums ever, actually. It's right up there. It's right up there with, Aerosmith's Permanent Vacation. And it's an epic album. I think Van Halen's best. And that's not an easy distinction to make, but man, it's good. It's good stuff. So if you haven't, hopefully you guys still own CDs, right? You can't just stick with like digital media. Hopefully you haven't, but you need to get yourself a copy so you have it when they try to digitally go in and censor it for whatever reason, which would be ironic because that album was all about fighting censorship with the name and everything. Let's see. Got a super chat from Owen Lister. Welcome to Owen Lister. Thank you very much for the super chat. It says, I watched The Princess Bride. So would the grandpa count as a good father figure? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think in that movie, did we ever know if Fred Savage's character actually has a father? I mean, he would be at work anyway, because Fred Savage's character is at home sick. I don't know if they've mentioned his actual father or not. But yeah, Peter Falk is coming in as his character is definitely a grandfather or father figure. And that's the thing. Father figures, we go ahead and say, might as well open with this. I remember this past year, Mother's Day, I'd never heard of this before, but I remember there was I saw it a lot on social media. Apparently there were people that would post like Happy Mother's Day, even to you, say single fathers who have to be both mother and father. Maybe that's a little dubious or whatever, but it was Happy Mother's Day to all, just mother figures. And I saw women everywhere taking such offense to that. They're like, no, mother means mother, and that's the only one this day is for, and how dare you? Calm down, sweetheart. The fact is, we live in a day and age where for father or mother, we're long beyond the days in which traditional, literal, biological parentage is the norm anymore. Now it should be protected. There's nothing, that is the true biological, natural way, of course. But I mean, what about parents or fathers who are adopted, or who have adopted, children or step parents, or just, grandfathers who step in and fill that role, uncles who step in and fill that role. And of course, just mentors, and since my channel, we open it up to mythological characters and cultural mythology. We need to realize that father figures are incredibly important in our stories, in our myth, because a lot of us who didn't have great father figures will supplement, and it's not a great replacement. It's not enough by any means, but it's all you have to get you by sometimes is looking for good father figures in these characters. And certainly the classic aspirational heroes like good old Superman, He-Man, like these characters will be stand-up heroes and characters to teach you morals, to teach you how to react to different things in your life. And they're important. And we are seeing an attack on them. We're seeing the ideologues today are trying to get rid of the father figure for certain reasons that we'll get into. But it's disgusting, honestly. It's pretty pathetic how that happens. So I thought we would first talk about just some classic father figures, and then we would talk about what's going on today. Again, I tried to pick some ones that I knew I could easily talk about, some of my favorites, and I asked you guys to go ahead and mention some of yours and continue to mention some of yours. Definitely. If I see some good mentions in the comments there, I'll definitely talk about that. I do see Leia Plus Size talking about Jor-El. And Jor-El is a great father figure to Superman. You know, Jor-El and Laura have to make the ultimate sacrifice, you know, and in that respect, you've got, you know, they want their child to live even though they're going to die. Now that's not always the most realistic scenario in our real world, but think about parents who give their child up for adoption. You know, we usually think about the mothers in danger, but fathers can be a part of that too. If they know if it's a young couple or whatever, or a teenage couple or whatever, that's as hard as that is. That's pretty heroic, you know, to know that the best thing for the child is to have somebody else raise them. That's pretty heroic, you know, in its own right. So before we even get to the figures that are actually in the child's life, that's a pretty good one. Oh, Sound Engraver says, Happy Father's Day, Prof. Here's to 10 years. That's right. It will be my 10th Father's Day of being a father. Why, thank you, my dear. Very much appreciated. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I'm going to take Alyssa out to, I need to find if there's some, we've had a couple county fairs and stuff like that around here. She loves roller coaster rides. She loves rides, period. She's a thrill seeker. There's nothing that terrifies her. But, you know, with her, you know, being on the autistic spectrum and stuff, it wouldn't be a good idea for me to take her to a big crowded place like one of the theme parks that are within driving distance on a Sunday, especially. So I'm looking for just, you know, any kind of like mall parking lot carnivals, you know, or anything like that with just at least a little spin around or something like that I can try and take her to, because she loves that kind of thing. So we will see. But yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, Jor-El's great, but I put on there Jonathan Kent because he is the first one that springs to mind. Just at any time I try to think of what's a really important father figure. Jonathan Kent in the Superman mythos, you know, unless you just totally pull it apart and dump on it, as Zack Snyder did, and we'll talk about that, he is his true good stand-up fatherhood is crucial to the man that Clark Kent becomes. Now, he's aspirational, so, you know, there's going to be some innate goodness in him from the beginning, but so much of the Kent's upbringing is his biggest superpower. You know, there's a wonderful line in the first season of Smallville when I think he's fighting a villain who's like an empath, like steals some of his powers some way or whatever. He tries to steal all of his powers, but at the end, Clark defeats him, of course, and Clark tells his father, he says, well, all those powers he took from me, he didn't take my greatest power, and that was you and Mom, you know, their upbringing. Because that's the moral compass. That's the guiding compass. And in terms of iterations of Jonathan Kent, I mean, you just can't beat Glenn Ford in that 1978 Superman film. As brief of a little scene as he has there with Clark as a teenager, why would you ever monkey with that? Why would you ever meddle with that? That is absolute perfection. You know, I did the whole video on it a little bit ago talking about the Oedipal complex in Superman, but this was just Clark is showing off. You know, he has to keep his powers a secret. He can't play football because he might hurt somebody or whatever. So he's basically the team's water boy, you know, and he wants to go out and hang out with the friends and Lana and stuff, but they Shelby, the bully, is you know, causing him extra work or whatever. So he decides he's going to get at least a little bit of a surprise to them. Give them a little bit of something, you know, and he does that thing where he runs really fast home, beats their car there, and they're like, how in the world did you get here so fast? And he's like, I ran, you know, and they drive off. And Jonathan Kent's working on the tractor there behind him, and Clark doesn't know he's there. And he doesn't scold Clark. He doesn't say, what were you thinking? People are going to know about your powers. Oh my gosh, no one's going to accept you. They're going to be terrified of you. No. He just kind of smiles and says, you're showing off a little bit out there, aren't you, son? And his tone, Clark knows it, like, yeah, I didn't mean to, you know. And Jonathan has this talk with him, and he says, look, I know you're at that age, which is normal for any teenager, you know, whether you have superpowers or not, where you're desperate to find your place. You're desperate to find your identity. You feel like you're just going to bust. You want to be known. You want to show everything you can do. You know, you're trying to find your place in the world. And he says, is it showing off for a bird to fly? Is it showing off, you know, for somebody to do what they naturally are capable of doing? And Jonathan Kent says, no, not at all. Not at all. Not even remotely. He says, well, here's the thing. You are here for a reason. Make no mistake. You are here for a reason. You have a destiny. and it's going to be great, and you can't squander it on something petty like playing football. That's the beautiful lesson. And he even says in that talk, he says, first, or back in the day, your mom and I were scared that somebody, if they found out what you could do, they'd come and take you away or something like that. But he says, you get older, you get wiser, and you realize that's nonsense, basically. And his encouragement to Clark in that moment then is to hold on to your destiny that's greater than just trying to get a little bit of acclaim and pride points. That's a dad lesson. That's wonderful wisdom that a father should impart to their son. Think about your impact on the world. Don't just focus on how you're going to be seen. Focus on what you can do for others, what your destiny is. That is beautiful, beautiful. And then, of course, tragically, is Jonathan Kent, Glenn Ford's character, does have the heart attack, which is so sad. But that's an important lesson too, right? Because Clark has to learn that, as he says over his father's grave, with all these powers, all these things I could do, I couldn't save him. There are things that not even you can do, Clark. There are things that these powers of yours are meant to respect life, never to try to rule it, never to try to meddle in it, as a human yourself here. It's just a wonderful lesson. And it comes back in the end, as I discussed in that video, how that's the real test when he hears Jonathan Kent's words, "You're here for a reason. Use your powers to serve." And then Jor-El's words, "You're forbidden, from meddling in Earth history." And he decides, even though he loves Jor-El and he's respectful of Jor-El's upbringing and the consciousness that was left behind and whatever, he chooses, I'm going to listen to Jonathan here. He's going to choose the man over the super, as I point out in that video. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And Jonathan Kent, the character, holds up in so many ways in comics. In the Superman Kryptonite by Tim Sale did the art, and oh my gosh, having one of those moments. The guy, I talk about him all the time, from DC New Frontier, the great artist and writer, but he only wrote this one. Tim Sale drew it. I've talked about it before on camera. And wonderful scene when he talks to his parents there and he gets some advice from Jonathan. Wonderful comic moments, but I will, as I put in the thumbnail there, I put John Snyder's version of the comic, of the character from Smallville. Now, Smallville, it has its issues. It's a teeny bopper drama at heart, so it's going to get a little melodramatic. It's certainly outlived itself. The whole no tights, no flight thing is fine when he's in Smallville growing up, but once you take him to Metropolis, you get over yourself and go ahead and make it Superman. So they stretch that out way too far. It's got issues. But the great thing about Smallville is that it never strayed from being true to the spirit of that original Donner film. It was so true to the characters, true to Christopher Reeves, portrayal of Superman. Tom Welling did a wonderful job with that. Wonderful job. And John Snyder was a great Jonathan Kent. Now, the show lasted so long that, Jonathan Kent, it had him pass away at one point, which is usually done. It doesn't have to always be done. The Kents can survive. The comics have showed us that. It's not a necessary thing to happen in Superman's life. And I love it when Superman is still out and about, married to Lois and everything, and they can still go back to the in-laws of the Kents. That's wonderful. I like that. But, it is commonly done that at least Jonathan dies, if not both of them at some point, which is often done in the comics for the hero to kind of discover his own self outside of the parental advice and protection and whatnot. It's done sometimes. But John Snyder was a wonderful, wonderful Jonathan Kent. There's so many times that he would give Clark wonderful advice. Just a true father, and not a perfect person. I mean, the Smallville interpretation of Jonathan Kent, it showed that he had to deal with a temper, for example. Jonathan Kent had a temper, and he had to deal with that, and it was something that he had to learn from. But he also used his own flaw to teach his son, and that was great. And that was wonderful. I remember that one scene where he's talking to Clark about, you cannot kill, you can never kill, because Clark's talking about how this one point he got so angry at somebody, and just that he was so mad at them because of what this villain had done, and he wanted to kill him. Like that thought entered his mind, and Jonathan's like, "But you didn't, right?" And Clark's like, "No, but I wanted to." And Jonathan's like, "Believe me, I understand a temper more than anybody else, but that's a line you can never come back from, ever." And so all of this, just the straight up idiots, the straight up intellectual infants who try to say that Man of Steel is okay because that's where he's learning not to kill. No, you don't come back from that. Once you're a killer, you're a killer. You don't come back from that. It's just so great. But, we're talking about Jonathan Kent, and this is one of the examples of a father figure that modern day media tries to tear down. Now, in Zack Snyder's case, he's not an ideologue. He's not one of the he's not one of the woke ideologues, right? But he's somebody who is just determined to deconstruct everything good about any superhero mythology. He doesn't understand them at all. He can't work with them or even conceive of them unless he pulls them down to his dirty, grubby, corroded, deconstructed level. And if you're going to do that to Superman, then you need to do it to Jonathan Kent. That's what he did in his movie. Kevin Costner's Jonathan Kent is a pathetic, despicable example of somebody who dares to call themselves father. He is a trash character, a trash individual. Just get him off the screen. That's a garbage character. He basically just abuses Clark. He abuses Clark in that movie. To sit there and make your son watch you die, knowing he could have saved you, don't even come in here with the stupid, no, but it was because he was worried about keeping his secret. And don't stop deluding yourself. That is garbage. That was a garbage writing, garbage character in every way, and just a blight on fatherhood in fiction in every way. Especially because they're taking such a wonderful character, a wonderful father figure that is so necessary in so many ways, and just dumping all over him. That's just Zack Snyder's complete and utter, not just misunderstanding, but blatant disrespect. And I would say even what's the word I'm looking for? Spite for the character and spite for the mythology. It was disgusting. Got a super chat here from Owen Lister. Thank you very much for another $4.99. Says some good father figures to list are Gandalf, Sirius Black. Think about Sirius Black, and the T-800 from the Terminator 2: The Judgment Day. It's been ages since I've seen Terminator 2. Not since middle school, I think. Actually, I need to go watch that again. But so Jonathan Kent, you just can't beat him. And there are certain roles when we're talking about fiction and mythology. The father figures are necessary. So, I talked about in that video of the metaphorical Oedipal complex in the Superman movie. It's not about literally killing your father, marrying your mother, or whatever, but it's about overcoming the metaphorical father, or surpassing it, or outgrowing, or whatever, so that you can reclaim the metaphorical mother. And I didn't go into specifics so much in that video, but I will here. The basic hero's journey. Okay, so in terms of father figures in myth, you can have the benevolent king or the tyrannical father. Okay, so your father can be a good guy like Jonathan Kent. That would be sort of the benevolent king character, or they can be a tyrannical father. Someone that needs to be overcome. And sometimes those archetypes show up not necessarily as fathers. The tyrannical father could be like a system or a villain or something like that Superman would have to overcome. And the hero, the male hero in a hero's journey, has to overcome the tyrannical father to reclaim the metaphorical mother. Now, metaphorical meaning the feminine. And you think this comes from psychology of growing up. You think of a boy growing up, their mother is their first encounter with femininity in their life. So that compassion, nurturing, life-giving, that kind of energy. And the father's there to care for them too, but it's a different kind. The masculine care is different. It's to train and protect, but the mother's there to nurture, to coddle when it needs to be coddled, and to care for and stuff like that. So that feminine energy's there. Now, as an individual grows up, they can't just be coddled, right? That's not healthy. They can't just be, still running to their mommy's arms, right? As a young man's growing up, they have a different relationship with the feminine. And so reclaiming the metaphorical mother is often done once they find love, once they find, and what that means is it's basically refining the feminine energy in the new context. Now that they're an adult, now they can have the feminine energy in their life, not as a mother, there to coddle them and nurture them and raise them motherly. No, now it's as a wife ultimately to in equal terms there to stand with them, to nurture, to give them that feminine energy, that support, and that compassion, but also to receive from them the masculine energy of protection and all of that. So that's the basic psychology of it, and how that plays out in story is often metaphorically. Pardon me, I'm going to turn my fan on here. Getting a little toasty. So that's metaphorically what's happening here. So to overcome the tyrannical father isn't always overcoming a bad guy. Sometimes there'll be an actual literal tyrannical father in a story, sometimes there won't. But it does mean learning how to be the father. You're learning how to grow into the father yourself. And that's one thing that Superman in the comics did so beautifully. Once again, until Dan DiDio brought in Bendis and they just dumped all over it. But that whole arc of the young Jonathan, they had him and Lois had the son Jonathan named after his own father. That was a beautiful arc, and we got to see Superman as a father. Bendis thought that wasn't edgy and dark enough, so he had to just totally pull a Zack Snyder on it all the way, and it's been garbage ever since. Not worth reading. But those original that Superman Rebirth era was beautiful, because you saw Superman with that Clark, with that wonderful example of Jonathan Kent as his own guiding light as a father, grow into that himself. And it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and what it kind of the father figures do in terms of from story. Even before we go into some of the other characters I had on the thumbnail, fairy tales, for example, all the way back to Grimm fairy tales, but certainly even in Disney's versions of fairy tales. You had think about Cinderella, for example. Now, feminists aren't bright enough, they're not smart enough to figure this out. And I mean that regardless of how intelligent anyone might be. Ideologies dumb you down. They dumb you down to the point where you can't function. You can't really look and see the whole picture because the ideology has put blinders on you. So like a feminist theorist, when she looks at a movie or a story or whatever, all they're looking for is, how is this unfair to women, or how is this, something that should be praised for its treatment of women? That's the only thing they look for. They've consciously dumbed themselves down. And that's the same thing with all of the ideologies out there and the critical theories, surely. They claim that's not the case. They claim it's so much more than that. No, it's not. It's not. It's just not. So, but if you take something like Cinderella and you've got an example of where feminist theorists might look at that and say, oh, look at that, disgusting. The mother's not even there. She's dead, of course. And then the mother figure is a horrible, Lady Tremaine there, the evil stepmother. The point behind that, though, is that Cinderella has lost both her real mother, the mothering, nurturing figure, who doesn't reappear until you got the guise of the godmother, the fairy godmother, who comes in and reappears as that energy, in a magical, metaphorical form. But the father, even with Lady Tremaine, and you can get on the father for marrying that horrible woman anyway, but even with Lady Tremaine in the picture, Cinderella was never mistreated as long as the father was alive. So the presence of the father figure, the masculine fatherly presence is protection. And that's what it should be. That's what it should be. So for a lot of classic heroes and classic fairy tales, you've got, for example, look at Hansel and Gretel, where the father, by the behest of the stepmother, I think is the way it usually is, takes the kids out to leave them. I mean, this is a failed father. And because of his failed protecting and failed fatherhood, these children are in this horrible trouble. Thank you, Alec Purdue. See your $2 super chat there. No comment attached, but good to see you there. So Disney movies in general have a long tradition, and then eventually we have great fathers coming in. I see some people in the chat mentioning Geppetto. Geppetto from Pinocchio, certainly trying his best to protect his son, but the lure of the world is too much for him. Sound Engraver mentioned Mufasa. I see Leia Plus Size talking about King Triton. Yeah, I was talking about him the other day with Sound Engraver. Wonderful, wonderful father figures. They're not there anymore. They're not in Disney anymore. Look at it's slowly been happening and slowly but surely happening. Frozen, for example, was just garbage. Frozen was horrible. It had good songs. There were good writing, good animation, imports portions of it. But the fact that they tried to make Elsa this sympathetic character and this champion of woke ideology. She doesn't need no man. She is just there. It's sisters for themselves and blah, blah, blah. And look at how uninteresting of a character she is then because of that. In the sequel, she takes the exact same journey she did in the first movie. She's emotionally, she's stunted in growth. She cannot grow any more beyond that need to accept herself, that just need to love herself, that need to realize how amazing she is, how victimized she was by her parents, father included, how victimized she is by the world that doesn't understand her. She had that exact same journey in the second movie. Anna is capable, I mean, she's horribly written, but Anna is capable of growing beyond that a little bit when the writers actually let her, because she has, what's his name, Kristoff in her life. And that doesn't mean that every woman out there needs a man or you're stunted in growth. No, we're talking about stories here and story logic. And because stories are symbols of going out there, and for a woman hero, for example, I've talked about this before, the heroic journey for a female is to tame the masculine energy, to come to terms with it. I talked about Moana and the great example of that, and that there's no love interest between Moana and I forget his name, but the Rock's character, the demigod. There's no love interest or no love story between them, but she has to sort of tame his masculine energy a little bit, which doesn't mean, and I say tame, that's probably a really misleading word with today's ideologues, because that's all they want to do is tame, castrate, and lord over any man or any masculinity. That's not what I mean. I mean, make the masculine energy take her seriously. This is the Beauty and the Beast story, the beautiful Beauty and the Beast story. Make the masculine energy take her seriously and coexist as separate energies that are equally working together. And we see that something in Beauty and the Beast in the context of a love story, and in something like Moana, even outside of a love story. It's great. It's a beautiful song. Beautiful story, rather. I think I got a super chat here, don't I? Arcade Burns, thank you very much for $5. One of the best dads is Uncle Iroh of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Iroh decides to steer his evil brother's kid right, giving up his military career. You're the second person to actually mention that character. I've never watched Last Airbender, Avatar. People have said it's good. I think Sound Engraver has seen it. She's talked about it a little bit, or some of it. But I've never seen it myself. But that's a good recommendation if that father figure is that great, and that it can't go wrong then with that. So we see that in classic fairy tales, certainly in superhero stories. They're trying to kill him off, but we're not done with our great examples yet. Let's keep going, and we're going to kind of, as we've done with Superman and Jonathan Kent here, where we're going to look at and celebrate what was there, and then we'll talk about how it's being degraded. Daniel says you missed out. Well, I definitely missed out when it was the first run, the Avatar, but it's not something that I'm not interested in. It actually is on my list a little bit as something to check out one day. So that's, I'll do that one day. The next character I had on my, I was laughing. I just saw in the chat, King of Corbin says Goofy from Goof Troop. Hey, Goofy's great, right? Love Goofy. Love the Goofy movies. Don't know if he's a character that I would look up to myself as a father figure, but he's great. Alyssa loves Goofy. He's her favorite Disney character. Sound Engraver says she's seen video essays of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but haven't seen the show. I'd like to watch it one day, but not Korra. Apparently Legend of Korra is really bad. Well, that'll be on Sound Engraver and I's list. I'll have another series we'll watch together one day. So definitely that. So where was it going? Oh, yeah, the second character I had on the thumbnail. The one and only Man-at-Arms. I even got my action figures here for the show and tell. Man-at-Arms. This is the original, not the new Origins, not any of this other stuff. This is the original 80s action figure, Man-at-Arms, conspicuously without a mustache, which was kind of silly, but it's because the toy was made before the cartoon and such. Man-at-Arms is a great father figure. And I just, everybody's talking about the Masters of the Universe Origins characters, which are great. I'm glad they exist, but they just don't. Nothing will ever measure up to the classic original He-Man characters. I've got more behind me there. Ram Man, Merman, Tila, Evelyn, all the great characters back there. Nothing will match up to these. These were just great. And that's where anytime I do get money for collecting or something like that, I want to put it in trying to get some of the originals, which are getting pricey, but building my connection to that. But Man-at-Arms, this is another adoptive father, right? So Jonathan Kent adopted young Clark. Man-at-Arms adopted Tila, and I'm just talking about the Filmation cartoon here. I know Man-at-Arms was very different in the mini comics, and I know comics done since that day have changed it around a little bit. For me, when it comes to heroes, He-Man rather, it's the Filmation universe and the comics that were inspired by that, but and actually truly kept with the legacy and spirit of it, and didn't just kind of take it as an excuse. The whole spiritual successor thing is dumb. But Man-at-Arms was a soldier. You think about that, a soldier, not a family man, didn't have a wife, but a soldier who comes across this infant, Tila, and then is tasked with bringing her up by the sorceress. Think about the sacrifices made to be a single dad when you're a soldier. You're not a family man, you're a soldier. That's huge. That's a big deal to take that on. And he proves to be a wonderful father figure to Tila. And if you watch the Filmation He-Man, Tila is far, far from Little Miss Damsel in Distress. She's far from some sexualized sex kitten object. Not that at all. People just do not get the difference today between idealization and sexualization. Ideologues can't make that distinction at all. They're not smart enough. Their ideology doesn't allow them those kind of nuances and specifics because it's got the strictures around their thinking, that clamp down tight. Tila is a great character in the Filmation. She's fierce. She's the captain of the guard, for crying out loud. Man-at-Arms, Duncan is not captain of the guard. He's still there. He's the weapons expert and he's capable, certainly, but Tila has that role. And Tila sometimes saves He-Man, and even the Filmation series. And it's not blown out of proportion. She's there to help. She's a capable hero, and you'd breathe a sigh of relief if she came to your rescue, But she's not He-Man. She can't do what He-Man does. And even as a grown woman, as the captain of the guard, there's still a place for Duncan in her life. His fatherhood. If he's ever in trouble, she needs to save him because she needs to help him because he's her father. She loves him. She recognizes what his masculine energy gave her, what his masculine fatherly protection did for her. That fatherly love. These are not evil words. These are not bad words at all, like the ideologues try and tell you today. She's a wonderful, everything wonderful about Tila is because of Duncan's upbringing, He-Man's Man-at-Arms upbringing. And the other part of Man-at-Arms fatherhood, we'll get to in a second. Arcade Burns says, I thought Tila was Sorceress's and Duncan's kid. No, not biologically by Duncan. No, she is the Sorceress's biological daughter. But Duncan comes, in the Filmation cartoons anyway, Duncan comes across her already born as a baby. And so he's tasked to raise her. The Filmation cartoons, I don't think ever really tell us who the Sorceress is, who Tila's father was in that respect. Some of the cartoons in different reboots and stuff like that go into it a little bit, but the Filmation never really does. It's a good point. Sound Engraver says, speaking of He-Man, I'm dropping a video on the awful trailer music for this new series that shall not be named, coming to you guys early next week. That's great. Yeah. Whoa, what happened here? Okay, there we go. Yeah, Sound Engraver and I have been talking, I've been doing videos on the Masters of the Universe Revelation, this nonsense reboot that's coming out. And yeah, from her musical expertise, she's going to talk about the silliness of using that song, We Need a Hero, the Footloose soundtrack song in there. It doesn't, no. So I'm looking forward to seeing her video on that. So definitely, I'm actually going to share some of Sound Engraver's videos a little bit later in this stream because they pertain to something else I'm going to talk about. But if you haven't subscribed to Sound Engraver, not just saying that because she's my girlfriend. She's definitely in line with my content and my philosophies as well. And she goes into them in areas that I don't because of my expertise, limitations and whatnot. So it's really cool. Owen Lister for $4.99 says, would you ever make a video on differences between idealization and secularization since the woke crowd don't seem to know the difference? It's a good idea. Yeah, I could do a whole flat out video of it. It won't help them at all because that's when you're a slave to an ideology, logical arguments mean nothing to you, So it won't help them at all, but maybe it'll help some people from falling into their ideology, the pitfall of it. That's a good idea. The other fatherhood example for Duncan, though, and some people miss this, is how much of a father figure he is to Prince Adam. Now, Prince Adam has his father and mother there, King Randor, and King Randor is a good king, but because of the secret that Prince Adam has to keep, and he can't let people know that he's He-Man, he has to seem like quite adult to King Randor. You know, he has to seem like unimpressed, an unimpressive child, and someone who disappoints his father a lot. You can imagine how much that hurts. And we do see episodes where Prince Adam is really trying to impress or please King Randor with just his own Prince Adam, persona. Sometimes he can a little bit, sometimes he can't, but they have a weird relationship there because of the big secret. But Duncan, Man-at-Arms, is in on the secret. He knows. And he's a great character to a father figure to Prince Adam, because he knows that Prince Adam is He-Man. And as He-Man, he relies on him. And this is something that you should see in a father for a grown man. You should see a recognition of the man that your child or the person that you're a father figure to has become. They're a man, and they are there to do things that even you can't. That's what they're there for. They're adults now. They're no longer completely beneath you and in need of every little bit of your protection. And Man-at-Arms realizes that, because Prince Adam is He-Man. He'll tell Adam it's time for He-Man, and we need He-Man, and he's completely recognizes that. But he's also there for Adam, especially in those moments when Adam is a little down because he doesn't have his father's approval, King Randor's approval. Duncan's there to step in and give him his own sort of fatherly approval. And I love that. It's subtle sometimes, but it's great. I love that. He's a great father figure to both Prince Adam and, of course, obviously Teela. And that goes to show, too, that it doesn't have to be a biological connection. All of the masculine energy, all of the abilities to be a father doesn't come from that biological connection to a child. Now that helps it. That helps it along greatly, of course. But that should be and that it is in every man if the culture allows them to develop it. We're in a culture today that says there's nothing innately masculine or feminine about anybody, despite their genitalia, despite their biology. There's nothing remotely masculine or feminine about you. It's all culturally determined, and you can in fact just choose. You can choose. They've tried to separate the word gender from the word sex, which is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. If you're biologically sexually a male, then you are masculine. You have that ability in you, and that's what you should be cultivating, because that is how you are going to be the happiest. Religions have been telling us this for ages, but psychology will even tell us this now. If you follow some of Jordan Peterson's work and whatnot, he'll talk about, sometimes he uses the word masculine and feminine, sometimes he doesn't, but he's describing the same thing. Statistically, men are going to be happier when they are in service of ideally like a family. But even if they don't have a family, you take somebody who has no family, men are more likely to completely give themselves over to a company that they work for, completely give themselves over to work, because they're there to serve, to provide, to protect. That's just innately masculine, and that's how men are the happiest, whether that's in context of a family or anything like that. Because, you've got people who people who never marry, never have children. That doesn't mean they can't be fulfilled with this masculine energy. They have other outlets. Priests and whatnot, of course. So you've got that aspect. They're the spiritual fathers, a fatherhood that is exhibited there. Maybe a person can have a vocation, like something that is sort of a service-oriented vocation. But even if it's just to a corporate company or whatever, they will give of themselves in service. And that's the masculine genius, whereas the feminine genius is to receive that service, receive that love, nurture it, and give it back, which literally is seen in childbirth, in a couple like that. But metaphorically, it doesn't always have to be in that respect. Obviously, women who don't have children or women who never marry or whatever are still capable of this. So it's not dependent on biological fatherhood, and Man-at-Arms always showed us this. I am calling it right now. Now, I don't know for absolute sure. I'm calling it right now, though, in the new Masters of the Universe Revelation series. I almost guarantee you Man-at-Arms is going to die in that cataclysmic battle that they're starting the whole series off with. The first 10 minutes or so of the episode, which they drew from for the trailer, which is going to try to look like the old show. You know, you're going to have all the old characters in their costumes doing the thing, fighting Skeletor and all of that. But as the synopsis has blatantly told us, there's that cataclysmic battle in which they lose. They are scattered. Guarantee you, Man-at-Arms is going to die in that battle. Or he's going to be wounded, or he's going to be somehow put out of commission to where he is not one of the characters that gathers again to restore things or whatever, you know, to reclaim the power sword or whatever nonsense the show is going to do. I guarantee you, they can't have him there because the show is going to be Teela-centric. It's going to be all about Teela is woman, hear her roar, and all that nonsense. And the Ideologues will not allow one of their wonderfully, Mary Sued up characters to be in any way beholden to a patriarchal father figure. No, she did it all by herself, no help from fathers at all. Or if there was help at one time, the fathers are dead and gone. I guarantee you, he's either going to be killed off straight up, which I mostly think, or he's in some way going to be completely absent from the rest of the journeys. Wounded, gotten old, whatever. It's going to be, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And it's so hilarious. Kevin Smith, he's done good stuff in the past, but you just look at the trajectory of his career. He has given himself over to complete and total shill tactics. He is nothing but a walking spin machine. Everything the man says is spin. And you look at this about when he was doing stuff for the DCEU, when he's trying to spin things for the Disney Star Wars sequel garbage, when he's trying to spin things for even this show. Look at the articles and the things he says, and he comes out and talks about this and that. He is trying his best. And those articles are on purpose because they know that people are definitely not on board with this series. That vocal Twitter minority is trying to pretend that everybody is, but they know they've got problems here. So they are trying everything they can to spin this any which way. Right now, they're trying to say, "Oh, it's not going to be Teela-centric, guys. It's not." I guarantee you, as soon as it comes out, now they're going to start saying, "What's so wrong with the Teela-centric show? What's so wrong with that?" As if we haven't been calling out all the problems that are wrong with it for so long. Guarantee you that. But yeah, it's going to be about putting away the masculine, especially Man-at-Arms, because he's a father figure, and we can't have any father figures for our tough, independent, intersectional, feminist Mary Sue characters. No. Samuel Proctor mentioning Mr. Incredible. Yeah, he was a great dad figure. Really somebody that learned how to. And that first movie was wonderful because Mr. Incredible's arc there, and I won't go into specifics because I know Sound Engraver hasn't seen it yet and I want to watch it with her. But his arc there is really about overcoming that sense of loss that some fathers feel like, man, I'm out of my glory days. It's a midlife crisis, right? I'm no longer in my glory days. I'll never be that again. I've got my family now and I love them, but is that really going to fulfill me in the same way of what I've lost? It's this question, that has to be answered. And he answers it in a very healthy way, realizing that his family's everything. And his family, in fact, is the key to reclaiming his glory. It's wonderful how that's done. Sound Engraver says, "Whoa, what a contradiction. They're telling me there's no difference between masculine and feminine, and yet they want to push people to change their sex." Exactly. The more they can push it, the more that they'll try to dislodge this idea from your mind that it was ever anything innate or true or objectively true about the world. It's ridiculous. Nathaniel says, "I'll go further and say they'll kill He-Man." I wouldn't be surprised at all. I would not be surprised at all. I don't know if they'll actually do that. I don't think they could have don't know if they quite have the guts to do that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Definitely. Yeah. The last character I have on the thumbnail anyway, and we'll talk about more, certainly. We can talk about more. But the last character I have on the thumbnail is one that I truly, truly love. As a father myself, Ant-Man, Scott Lang, from what the MCU used to be. Now, I've talked about it plenty of times on my channel before. Anybody with a brain and who has had the time to watch these movies and read the releases for what's to come knows there's no way you can't know that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has taken a hard, literal turn. They are not interested in the same things they were interested in before. They're not even interested in logically building on anything that they were doing before. We talked about that in many cases. You can't logically build up the importance of Bucky to Cap and everything, and then suddenly just have him hand the shield to Falcon for some reason. Doesn't make sense. People have tried to pretend it does. It doesn't. That's one way they do it. The way that they just completely turned their back on everything that they'd been doing for Hulk, and his sort of his story progression, they completely turned their back on all of that with Endgame. And even Ant-Man, I would argue, with the stupid time jump thing that Endgame did, and having Cassie suddenly older, I think in part, or I think at least the reason that ideologues are okay with it or like it is because it removes his presence from her life as she grows up. The last time he saw her, then in that case, was Ant-Man and Wasp as a younger girl, and it gets to remove his presence from her life as she grows up to become a young woman that she is in Endgame. Stupid. And the ideologues love that. That's great for them. So when I'm talking about Scott Lang Ant-Man, I'm talking solely about the original 2 films. Well, 3 if you count Captain America Civil War, which was great. What I love about Scott Lang, that first Ant-Man movie is actually one of my favorite films. It's easily in my top 10. Definitely in my top 10 favorite films. It's a great movie. It really is great. Paul Rudd is at his best. The cast is great. The writing is so tight and wonderful, and I love it because in this respect, you've got a biological father who's messed up, and he has a penchant for messing up. He tries to do the right thing. He's not a bad person at all. But when he does this sort of Robin Hood move that gets him lands himself in prison, he's trying to do the right thing. And morally, we can say, okay, we understand that. He just doesn't always have the best tact or the best decision making, and that's why Hank comes into his life. And Hank, fatherhood is the theme that permeates the Ant-Man movies, both of them actually, but especially the first one. Hank comes into his life as his own father figure, eventually, and tries to tell him that wonderful scene they have in the police interrogation room when Hank's posing as his lawyer, and he tells him, your family that they had, they're pulling for you, and you just do that. You'll never stop taking the easy way out and such like that. It's wonderful lessons. And Scott, everything he does in that movie, even the bad choices he makes, are for Cassie's sake. I love it when he's in the van there and he's trying to get a job as an ex-con and he's just not able to keep anything, and he's tallying up the amount of money he'd have to make before his ex-wife will let him see his daughter Cassie. And he's like, it's be like 3 years before I get to see Cassie or whatever. He's like, that's not an option, So when he does, do a little crime thing there, it's everything he does is for her sake, even if they're not the greatest choices to make. And lister for another $4.99. Love those $4.99 super chats. So here are some father figures: Mr. Miyagi from The New Karate Kid and Gil from Finding Nemo. Gil's great. Yeah, Gil's great. The New Karate Kid. Oh, just from the Karate Kid. Oh, where did I read the new in there? Sorry, just from Karate Kid. Yeah, Mr. Miyagi was, from the classic Karate Kid. Yeah, he was a great character. Don't know where I read the new in there. I love that she's the way, in that first movie, Hope even tells him to, when he needs to focus because he's trying to learn how to command the ants. And she says, you need to focus your thoughts, clarity, crystal clear clarity. And she says, use Cassie, use her, use your daughter, the thought of your daughter to focus. And that focuses everything that he does as a hero. That's the reason he goes out and does this wonderful last heroic thing, the heist that they're trying to do to save this technology from the villain. It's beautiful because he goes to see her that night before. Remember, he can't sleep. It's the night before the big heist they're going to do, and he goes and to see her in her room there, and she's his guiding compass. She's his everything, and he's willing to use that masculine energy, lay it down in service for his daughter. So beautiful. Ed Starr, man, you are amazing. Again, thank you so deeply much for that incredibly generous super chat. Very much appreciated, sir. You've done this before, and it's very much appreciated. Definitely helps me keep going and supports things around here. But you have a comment there. It says, let me go ahead and put this on the screen if I can find it again. There we go. I'm still moved by the TMNT story arc as Master Splinter realizes that his students have become his sons. That is a great one. I think you're talking about is that the first movie? It's been so long since I've seen it. but I do remember that, and that is really beautiful. Again, he's an adopted father, you know, he's adopted those turtles as his own. That's really great. Yeah, I do remember that, and I'm just trying to remember exactly if it was the first movie or not because it's been so long since I've seen those. I need to get the DVD of the first movie because that is just such a classic. I remember watching it. I know some people are like hardcore comics, like the original TMNT comic fans. That's fine. For me, it's the cartoon all the way. Got it. Actually, no, I think I've got it in the living room on my shelf. I've got the whole first season anyway. That original cartoon was just wonderful for me, and the toys and such, and then and the movies. You know, even the second movie, I didn't hate that. I thought it was great. You know, it's not the classic that the first film was, but it was really great. So yeah, Splinter's. And it's interesting how you say that he realizes that his students have become his sons, because that's something that's I think some people, when they're not in a traditional fatherhood relationship or even a traditional father figure like relationship, I think fatherhood can kind of come upon them before they realize it. Or father figurehood can kind of come upon them before they realize it. You see this with a lot of teachers, for example, our mentors, you know, in a school situation or a church situation or whatever. Yeah, it's just suddenly you realize I'm actually kind of a father figure. They look at me as a father figure, you know, and you weren't really going into the relationship like that, but you were entering it with such a self-serving attitude that it became that. And that's a great example for Splinter there. Yeah. Now, following Scott Lang's story progression here, and again, I'm trying not to give too many details because Sound Engraver hasn't watched the MCU with me up to this point yet. We're still making our way through. He makes the choice he does in Captain America Civil War. And again, it's kind of like the choice he did in the first film that landed him in prison, right? He thinks it's the right thing to do. He truly believes it's the right thing to do. So he acts on his moral compass. He acts on what's right. And as we've seen him already take the journey in Ant-Man, he's trying to make a better world for his daughter, you know, so you can see all that. But the choice has consequences, and it does land him in some trouble. Now, it's not that much trouble. He can still see his daughter and everything. He's under house arrest, right, at the beginning of Ant-Man and Wasp. But still, his daughter, Cassie, is the center of his life. We had that wonderful scene in the beginning of the movie when he's trying to entertain his daughter, who's like, what, 12 or something? Or not 12, like 10 or something maybe at that point. I forget how old she is. But he's trying to entertain her as being under house arrest and can't leave. So he's got all these obstacle courses built around, and he's playing with her, you know, and it's a wonderful, wonderful scene. And it sets the tone again for that movie, that she is his guiding compass. You know, where does he hide the suit and the trophy that he gives her, or she gives him, and stuff like that. So that's a really great scene. I've heard some people say, and I have no problem just agreeing to disagree with you, but I've heard some people trying to say that Ant-Man and Wasp is where that thing drops it, and that, they're trying to overshadow him with the character of Wasp, and that's sort of the feminist takeover. I don't see that at all, really. I see, as if you think about the character of Ant-Man from the comics, both Scott Lang, but certainly Hank Pym, the character of Ant-Man has always been sort of synonymous with Wasp somewhere, whether that's Janet or Hope. Somehow Wasp is there. And that's Sound Engraver says, I'll mute you. You can talk about it, and gave me $2 just to say that. No, I finished out all the specifics I was going to say about it. But, you know, Ant-Man and Wasp have always been kind of, you know, grouped together, you know, and not as sidekick aspects, but as partners. That's where the characters shine. Again, whether you're talking about Hank and Janet or Scott and Hope. I didn't follow Scott and Hope so much in the comics. I'd like to before Nick Spencer got his garbage hands on them. But anyway, so I think that when you introduce Wasp into the mix, that was fine. And because of what Scott had gone through with Civil War, yeah, it made sense to me that you know, Hope was out there doing the Wasp thing, but she can't do it alone, right? That's the cool thing about Ant-Man and Wasp, the movie, the sequel to Ant-Man being Ant-Man and Wasp. It's about both of them realizing that neither can do it alone. Hope can't just go out and be the new Ant-Man type hero as Wasp. She can't just go out and do everything by herself. She needs him. She needs Ant-Man. And it's a great journey, a great film. I really enjoyed that a lot. That's why I was so depressed with Endgame, because it slammed the door on receiving a good, solid third installment of their world and those characters that we should have had, you know. Yeah, really garbage. Samuel Proch says, you'd be right if they didn't write her in a way that humiliated Scott multiple times. I hear what you're saying. I do. And again, I'm willing to agree to disagree. I didn't see it as humiliation. I mean, they continued their relationship that began in Ant-Man, the first film. She is more, she's used to the technology. She's more, what's the word, familiar with the science, that her father's created and stuff like that. If you're kind of sensitive to that, I get it. I get it how that could bother you. I didn't think of this humiliation at all. I thought it was good humor, good back and forth. He even gives it back to her. I thought it was good, but that's me. So, those are the ones that I had to choose. Now, I do want to mention, you guys probably told it to me already. Let me see. I'm just going to look it up. But I didn't think about this until literally I started the stream. But Ito, is it Ito? Battle Angel Alita's father figure. Yeah, Dr. Ito, IDEO. That is another great father figure. That is one of the reasons why Battle Angel Alita is I mean, it's a great film, period. Okay, just despite that relationship, it's solidly written, it's amazingly acted, it's just a wonderful film in every way. That it, once again, if Disney was interested in making money, they'd be continuing that franchise. They're not. They're interested in pushing the ideology, and Battle Angel Alita flies right in the face of their ideology, because you've got a wonderful female hero there, strong, great, but she's drawing on the strength from her father figure and her love interest in that point, they can't have that. We can't have father figures in this world. No. The Captain Marvel was the movie they wanted. They pushed that, which came out, right around the same time, because she didn't have a father figure. In fact, every man, her actual father in Captain Marvel was horrible to her. We saw that, he kept her down because she was a girl. And then later they saw, when, forgetting his name, but the guy that trains her, he has to turn bad. She can't have a male mentor figure at all that doesn't turn bad. Fury works only because he's her little purse puppy throughout the whole film, which totally, just dumps all over the character of Nick Fury throughout the entire MCU. But that's the kind of character, that's the kind of story they want. If men are going to be in there in any way, they're not going to be father figures. They're not going to be, it's not going to be recognized that they are caring and loving fathers like Aunt Scott Lang is to Cassie. No. Can't have any of that anymore. Father figures have to be null and void. They have to get out of here, because that's the only way the ideologues Mary Sue's work. Ray Skywalker, Ray never had, Ray Palpatine's a better way of saying it. She never had a father figure. No, her parents dump her off. And any man that comes into her life, she has to very specifically outshine, right? She has to outshine Finn. She has to outshine and impress even, Han Solo. She has to outshine every, male that comes into her life and be the one to save Kylo and all this nonsense. She can't, you will never have a young woman in any film these days benefit from or dependent on the love and care and direction of a father figure. Never going to happen again, which is why these characters fall flat. They absolutely fall flat. They don't work. Now, the last example that I want to talk about here, in light of this, as we close up, is Star Wars. I want to talk about Star Wars. Now, I can't really talk about Anakin as a father figure, right? He's not a very good father figure. He falls, right? He falls. But let me see. Grab this link to Sound Engraver's playlist here, because this will be relevant in a second. He falls, and he's what's great about that first movie. Let me catch this super chat from Owen Lister from $9.99. In the Rambo movies, Trump Man, Rambo's commander, was practically a dad to him. Like, one scene in First Blood when Rambo broke down, the Trump Man comforted him. I do vaguely remember that. It's been ages and ages and ages since I've seen the Rambo movies. I was a young child, actually, which I probably shouldn't have been watching the Rambo movies, but I vaguely remember that. I need to watch them again. Those first anyway, the first, 1, 2, and 3. Because I do know that they're kind of pretty much classics. But think about Luke's journey in the original trilogy of Star Wars. And think about what I told you at the beginning of the stream about the journey of the hero to either surpass or overcome the tyrannical father, but learn how to become the father figure himself. the brilliant thing about the original trilogy of Star Wars is that you can't think of a more tyrannical father figure, one worthy in story terms of actually defeating and killing, than Darth Vader, right? I mean, this is father gone bad to the nth degree. This is mass murderer of the galaxy. I mean, this is somebody in every way who needs to be taken out of commission and taken out of play. And Luke, not for selfish reasons, but for purely altruistic reasons, he knows that his father can be saved. He has to believe it. He wants to believe it. Luke exhibits more of that masculine fatherhood energy toward Anakin than Anakin ever did to him. You know, Darth Vader tries to recruit him as father and son. You and I can rule the galaxy. We'll overcome the Emperor and all of that. But that's not real fatherhood. Luke is the one that extends that mercy to him. That's what makes that original trilogy such a profoundly deep story, and makes Luke one of the most aspirational characters you can ever imagine. He doesn't want to. He does more than just become the tyrannical, or just become the father himself. He does more than just surpass the father, and he refuses to defeat the tyrannical father. He wants to redeem the tyrannical father. Now, this, you see it sometimes in mythology, but it's rare. It's not as prevalent. And with the character of Darth Vader, what they made him out to be, long before we ever got the prequels or ever really understood Anakin's backstory, I mean, that's really good. And the way they make it work, when you have that wonderful scene that in the end, when Anakin says, "Take off my helmet. I want to see you, look upon you with my own eyes, and tell your sister you were right. There was still good in me." That's just beautiful. That's so deep. And I love it in the EU, how Anakin as a Force ghost comes back to sort of make amends with Leia over a couple of different books. We see a little bit in Truce of Bakura, Ghost of Tatooine. We see it some, that's a beautiful story too, of trying to make amends from the grave, as it were. So Star Wars has this theme of fatherhood and the importance of fatherhood in it. Especially in the EU, Luke going on to be a father, Han, going on to be a father. We've seen that with our book studies of the Thrawn trilogy. It's wonderful. It's wonderful, this theme of fatherhood. In the prequels, though, and in Clone Wars, for example, Sound Engraver's already put the playlist there in the chat. I'm going to put it again in a second, though. But the character of Ahsoka Tano, I've talked a lot about this. Sound Engraver goes into specifics. I talked recently about it in my videos, just kind of mentioned as a side of how the Siege of Mandalore, that whole arc in the Disney Plus season 7 does not work. It's horribly written. It cements Ahsoka as nothing but a Mary Sue in the universe going forward. It's horrible. It's horrible in every way. And I've talked about it a lot when it was out. I just don't have the emotional energy to talk about it much anymore. But man, Sound Engraver went through point by point by point and has given the most amazing example and explains every which way that just got it completely wrong. He put it in the chat already, but I'll put the link in the chat here. If you're new to the chat or new to my videos, if you haven't subscribed to Sound Engraver, or at least just go watch those videos and see if you want to subscribe to her, definitely recommend it, because she will answer the question. Because when I mentioned it as an aside, I've gotten some people who are new to my channel or whatever saying, what's wrong with Siege of Mandalore? Are you kidding me? Everything. But let's go back before that. Ahsoka Tano had problems as a character. She was written bratty. It comes down to Dave Filoni's. He's only capable of creating and maintaining 2 types of female characters. Other writers can come in because he's not written everything. He's always co-written most of the things, except until Siege of Mandalore, that arc. That was all him, as Sound Engraver points out. But he's only usually able to write the Mary Sue, the young woman, the Mary Sue who can do everything and never has to face consequences for her actions, or the older matronly wise hero who's pretty well rounded for that kind of character. But these are the only times he can really create, so those are the old Jedi Masters, or even Hera, in Rebels and stuff like that. But think about Ahsoka in the original Clone Wars up through the series. She was written bratty at times. She had her Mary Sue moments, like the episode in which they go to rescue Tarkin. I forget. I mean, she's not a perfectly written character. The idea of her character, though, is interesting, and I think justifiable. I think it's interesting, and I don't mind it being there, the idea of her character, because what if Anakin how would it change him? You know, it's Obi-Wan wants him to have an apprentice. We learned that in that first movie there. Obi-Wan says, it sounds like it's coming from Yoda, but Obi-Wan's the one who pulled for Anakin to get an apprentice because thinking that might tame him, that might change him up. And in that very first movie, Yoda says, yes, he's ready for an apprentice. He'll do well. Is he ready to let go of an apprentice, though? Is he ready to let go of an apprentice? And that's good. That sets up this arc. Now, the thing is, though, it does not work in any way to go make... Santa Graver was dropping the link to her He-Man analysis of the He-Man theme. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was the link she dropped. And then I dropped the one to her Siege of Mandalore analysis. Both of those are good. Definitely check those out. So Ahsoka is an interesting character. There's a reason for her there. Could be. They dropped the ball a lot, but there could be a great reason for her there. You cannot retroactively try to make her more important to Anakin than she can be, because the prequels, the movies themselves, they've already shown us that what turns Anakin is the losing Padme, period. That's it. Whatever happened with him and Ahsoka has to be in the past. That can't be anything that's still on his mind, that's still part of the process. It's part of it. That whole stupid, like try hard scene at the end of the season where he's like goes and he finds Ahsoka's lightsaber. It's like, oh, I've lost her for sure. Ahsoka is nothing. She is no part of his transition to Darth Vader at all. She's part of his journey to that point, if written well. But you can't try and just shove her in and make her that. And that's what Filoni's trying to do. Filoni's trying to put, I mean, you can see it. Any logical person can step back and see it. He is trying to retroactively place Ahsoka Tano in every crucial moment of the Star Wars history so that it can be Star Wars, the Ahsoka Tano story. Don't think for a second you won't eventually see her convincing Luke that Anakin can be saved. She'll be the reason behind that too. She'll be there in every way, orchestrating Tano the White. She'll be there in every way. It's ridiculous what he's doing with his little favorite character, his little some people call it his waifu or whatever. I don't know, but it's clearly his little Mary Sue character that he's trying to reshape and remake Star Wars into the image of by retroactively going back and doing these little series and scenes that take place before, and that she's kind of part of it now and so forth. Now, what does this do? What does this have to do with the father figure thing? Well, I'll tell you. Before Anakin was a biological father, because he completely drops the ball before he's ever, before his children are ever born, we know that. Before that, though, the closest fatherhood, and it's not really fatherhood strictly. I mean, he's kind of like an older brother to her at first, but that's where we should have seen this possible father figure Anakin character trying to play things out in his relationship with Ahsoka. We should have seen that a little bit more. They didn't do that enough. They were too busy trying to make Ahsoka amazing and never have to face consequences for her actions. Or if they were consequences, it was like, buck up, kid. You'll do better next time. I know you just got a bunch of people killed, but don't feel so bad about it, They should have played that up a lot more, because this is something that's in the Star Wars universe. It's ingrained in the DNA of the original trilogy. The prequels trilogy plays it up, keeps it going. Obi-Wan himself, he calls Anakin his brother, but he was very much a father figure to Anakin. As was Qui-Gon to him. We see that even though Qui-Gon dies at the first movie, we see him dealing with the legacy of that, Obi-Wan himself. And the EU picked up on that. Even before the prequels came out, the EU was picking up on that theme and playing it out with Luke's ultimate journey, Han and Leia's and so forth. And then even in the movies or the books and games and whatnot, the Old Republic era, that fatherhood or lack of a fatherhood, father figure or lack of a father figure in a character's life is going to definitely determine their character, their history. I mean, or their future rather, their destiny. It's obvious. So that is probably where I'll close this out. Even the absence of the father figure is really important. And what are we seeing today? We're seeing just complete and total ignoring of the father figure. And it's giving us the garbage characters, the garbage flat stories that it doesn't resonate with anybody. They're not like, and then they get mad at you because their story didn't resonate with you. The audacity of that. how dare you people not go see Birds of Prey? How dare you not support our Ghostbusters movie? How dare you? Write something that's good and people will support it. Write something that actually resonates. But no, they want to condition you and teach you to not let the old things resonate, you know? It's garbage. Of all the people, Stephen Cruz, brother, I have missed you. Where have you been, man? Great to see you. Slap the bass, bro. Rock out with you. Just rock out. Man, good to see you. I know you got busy with work and everything and you weren't around for a while, but still use that music you gave me for a lot of my video intros. It's great stuff. And hopefully you're getting closer. I haven't heard anything about your album or whatever, but man, it's good to see you pop back in. Hopefully you're doing well. And hopefully we can see you around a little bit more. It's been a little, it hasn't been as weird without Stephen Cruz, and Stephen Cruz is here to keep it weird, right? You know, so it's been way too unweird without you. Spidey rules. No, people talked about Uncle Ben. I didn't forget him. He's not somebody that I resonated greatly with as a father figure growing up myself. So I don't have like a lot to talk about him there myself. But no, he's definitely a solid father figure. I mean, he is. You think about Uncle Ben and Aunt May, they are Spider-Man's Jonathan and Martha Kent. Absolutely. I mean, Spider-Man as a character owes so much to Superman. He's a totally different type of character. He's a cathartic motivational versus aspirational. But the relationship between Spider-Man and Superman, different universes and everything, but that's the right relationship between aspirational and cathartic motivational. And they tried to take so many attributes of Superman's story to a certain degree and put them in Spider-Man. I mean, Stan Lee did that with the original comics. But that first Spider-Man movie, the first Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, really, one of the things that makes it such a wonderful classic is how it definitely acknowledged that relationship. Even though they're not in the same story universe, that everything we know about Superman as an aspirational hero is what we should have in mind when we're following young Peter Parker trying to be a hero in a cathartic motivational way. And Uncle Ben's a big part of that. And the wonderful speech he gave him, not just the with great power comes great responsibility speech, but all of his upbringing up until then, you know, is part of what made him who he was. And that movie had so many great things, like when he tries to, he says up and away when he's trying to swing on the web, or when he, when he saves Mary J or MJ from the balcony scene. They're paying homage to the helicopter scene from Superman. They're almost shot by shot in certain ways. They're really paying a lot of homage and reference to the actual famous helicopter scene from Superman 78. So yeah, that's all I can say about Uncle Ben, but yeah, he's a great one. So I am nearing the end of my voice and energy for the night here. I usually wrap these up at about an hour, but we're almost to an hour and a half. It's been great though. There's so much stuff to talk about. So, it hasn't been a problem at all. Stephen Cruz. There's a running joke. If you're around the channel for a long, long time, you know that Stephen Cruz used to be around here all the time, and he was always, his running joke is to try to get people to do a rewatch of the Showgirls film. Obviously, I'm remotely interested in doing that, but that's his running joke. So Sal says that there's a lot of father figures in that movie. They're always calling guys daddy. not the father figures I'm talking about here, Mr. Cruz. But thanks for giving me a good laugh at the end of the stream. So, yeah, that's about all I've got tonight from this. I will mine this stream and try and find some threads that go together as a good standalone video. That's what I've been doing lately. In fact, right after this stream, I'm going to go ahead and release the last standalone video from last Friday's stream. Yeah, I try to prepare for these as much as I can, but sometimes they're a bit stream of consciousness. Sometimes I'll remember something and go back to it. And I find that, a lot of people who aren't really live stream watchers or even replay watchers, they won't tune into that, but they will tune into a short standalone film if you've condensed all the information about that one topic. So I'll do that for this stream, definitely. You'll see a couple of those come out for this week. But the one that's hitting as soon as I end this stream and it posts, I think I've got it set for 11:45 to go ahead and come out, is the last stream from last Friday's, or the last video from last Friday's stream. And it's called When Everything's Anime, Nothing's Anime. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun stream. I'm talking about how that's one of the Hollywood tactics now. People like prefer anime. Well, we'll just make art stuff anime. It's like, what's the definition then of even anime? You're trying to say that Masters Universe Revelation is anime. Is it? We'll talk about that. So great to see you all here. Thank you so much. Obviously, thank you so much to the super chatters. Very much appreciated, every single one of you. But thank you so much to those who couldn't super chat or don't super chat, whatever. You're still active in the comments. I appreciate that. Appreciate the comments I was able to see and read, and the father figures that you guys gave me. So I definitely recommend, first of all, happy Father's Day to anybody who is a father or a father figure out there. Except unless you're a father and you drop the ball and you don't do good father work, then you don't get a happy Father's Day. You need to get on that and fix that, because we are vital to the world. The world is in desperate need. Now, in general, objectively, the world needs both father and mother figures. That's two halves that make the whole of what we need, in life. But right now in culture, we are seeing a heavy battle at trying to eliminate the father figures and trying to pretend that they're not important in any way. So stand up for yourself and pat yourself on the back for being a good father figure. We need more of you. So that's all for tonight's stream. Stay tuned for more videos, more inspiration of heroes. I've got one on Elongated Man coming up soon, and more guests on the channel and whatnot. But until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love.